Okay, it is 3 o'clock and all the commissioners except Alderman McShane are with us. It looks like the planning staff is with us, so we will call the meeting to order. This is the September pre-planning commission meeting. And let's see, the first thing on our agenda is a consent item, and this is the visitation adaptive reuse.
Thank you. There were no major updates. It's why it's on the consent agenda. There were no outstanding conditions of approval. As you'll recall, this is the site plan that is just for that turnaround area behind the hotel, where they're expanding to provide some better vehicular drop-off space for visitors and clients. And yeah, there were no conditions of approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I don't see Dorothy, but I know she's on mute. I assume do either of the commissioners have any questions? Okay, Ron's shaking his head no. Okay, so then let's go to, and so next is a continuance, and this is the second time that we've continued this, I believe, for the Grove Hill P&D.
The applicant has requested another continuance just procedurally wise on master plans. The applicant is allowed to only request 2 continuances. Thereafter, if the planning commission wanted to continue something, you could, but the applicant can no longer request any continuances. So at the next hearing, it will have to be, like I said, an action will had to be taken by the commission, either approve, deny, or the continuance. And the other just point of interest is that we have a continuation of an application for more than 90 days from the original date it was scheduled. The applicants do have to send out new adjoining property owner notices, and they have to repost the property's been posted the whole time, but they have to update the sign again with the date of the continued hearing. So just to keep the public involved, after there's been that 90-day gap, the code does recognize that people may have lost interest or focus on where it was. So the new letters will go out to the adjoining property owners and the NAC coordinators to advise of this upcoming hearing.
Okay. And as I was saying before the meeting started, I will not be here next pre-planning meeting and hearing, but I will be back for the workshop on the 17th next month. Okay, so now we go into the meat of the agenda. And the first item is on Mill Island. We have the final plat. Well, we actually have 2 different items, but let's take them in order. The first one is lot 365. And this is Sharon.
There's no changes from the staff report that you've seen. There's only one condition, and it's for, I could actually tell you for both plats, they just have to add a signature block for the owner, but there's no change. There's no other problem. It's ready to be voted on.
Okay. Commissioner Beatty, Analysis, any questions, comments? Okay, on the other one too?
Exactly the same. They're ready.
Okay.
The only thing that was missing, they have to add another owner line to their owner block, and they will. They've already done it, as a matter of fact, but it won't show up on what you see because it's in response to the comment. I've already let them know, and they know they've already done it.
All right, and even though they quote are the same, we do have to take those separately.
Correct.
And vote on them separately. All right, so now we go to the Thomas Somerville final site plan, and this goes back to Gabrielle.
Okay, there we go. Unmute myself. So this is the final site plan application. In addition to voting on the site plan, you're also going to make several modification motions. There are 2 for landscaping and 1 for the lighting levels. The landscaping modifications are to the interior parking lot landscaping to reduce it down from the 10% required to 4%, and then to modify the second landscaping modification is to the level 2 buffer. The width of it is being reduced down but from 10 feet to between 6 and 8. And then they are proposing to substitute the use of the chain link fence with the privacy slats for a wall or a hedge. The lighting modification, or the modification to the parking lot standards, is for lighting, and that is due to some additional light spillover. They've got some new fixtures that are wall mounted and some existing light spillover from some of the fixtures. There was a question at the workshop about had they been in contact with the adjoining property owner to see if they were concerned about the impacts of the light spillover, and a supplemental letter was attached that they had contacted them, and the adjoining property owner wasn't concerned. Just to follow up on that, that lot is lot 342, and we actually had a site plan several months ago for the approval of the redevelopment of that site where the light spillover is occurring, and that is a similar industrial, warehouse storage space. So the lighting is not going to conflict with any non-complementary uses. And that was, I think, all we had. I think at the time of the workshop, the roads APFO exemption was still pending, but it has been issued, and that's on the basis that the project's not going to generate more than 50 new peak hour trips. And happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions? So the one thing I realized that I would like, in addition to when we discuss these items, what has changed since the workshop, is if the plans that are being given to us, if there's been anything that has changed in the plans, because it can be time consuming to lay both of them out and to go through them all to see if there is any changes. So that would, I think, really help us.
Sure. Generally, we'll point out kind of the substantive things, that there are a lot of comments when we give you the workshop packets. You also get just all our list of staff comments. So there are a lot of technical things that might change if a curb return changed slightly, or is that the kind of detail, or are you looking more substantive? Sometimes
Probably something more substantive.
Okay.
I assume it's something that we would typically look at to take note of. Okay. It doesn't have to be something that we discussed, but I know I do that, and I've done that every year, and I realize, or every month, if I could just ask that question, that would be happy, because often it is just the same set of plans.
Very similar.
So,
and then the goal of when we get things to workshop, are that they're pretty well defined, that we're not making major substantive changes, or the applicant's not. But there are a lot of technical, we ask them to update a note with the correct date for this or that. If it's not that kind of information, we can definitely hone in on, hey, look over here, this, this landscaping area changed, or they added 4 more parking spaces over here, or took away 4 parking spaces, those sorts of things.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think we're good on that one. And then the combined forest stand, pretty straightforward.
There were no comments on it. They are paying the fee in lieu of. All of the street trees are existing on that project, so they didn't have any options for credits there. And really no areas on site that aren't already developed.
Okie doke. Well, that takes us to, it's also you, Gabrielle, the Frederick Exchange, and we have 2 items on this, the final site plan and the combined forest stand delineation.
So on the site plan, you're going to be taking a motion on the site plan itself, but also a modification for the standard street detail that they're proposing to use for the new street section. That's the road connecting east-south. Southeast and east-south, in my mind, look the same. And Monocacy Boulevard, that's that new section of public road that we discussed was on the comp plan. They are using a slightly different road standard, different lane widths, different right-of-way widths, to accommodate more of the type of traffic that you would see in here. Our local city road standard is really designed for a residential context. This detail they're proposing to use has slightly wider lane widths. They're providing a slightly larger planting strip and to kind of separate the sidewalk from the street. So it's slightly different, but we have reviewed that and are recommending approval of that modification. The major substantive kind of update to point your attention to is regarding some of the conditions related to the CSX or the MTA approvals. We have met after the workshop. We met with representatives from the MTA. There were some concerns that they expressed about how they'll prevent vehicles from backing up and waiting to turn off of out of the new road and not just sitting on the railroad tracks. Obviously a dangerous situation. So the applicant is going to have a lot of follow-up to do after the Planning Commission's approval to secure those approvals from MTA. So that the applicant's well aware of that. Obviously, if there were anything substantive to change the site plan as a result of the MTA CSX approval process that impacted the site plan, it may require them to come back and revise their site plan further. They're also aware of that. One of the conditions we're recommending is that they, right now the plan shows, and if it helps, I can probably bring it up and share. The plan shows the extension of the shared use path beyond where their property frontage is to connect to a crosswalk across East South Street to the adjoining property on the other side. I'm gonna bring it up real quick so you can look exactly at what we're asking them to do. 1 second. Thinking slowly. Oh, why it's really slow. There we go. Hopefully everybody will be looking at my screen in a second. All right, hopefully you see the plan. So their property line is this dashed line and ends. They're required to build the frontage improvements. So the curb, gutter, sidewalk, street trees, all of those things, a project would be required. In this case, the shared use path along the area that is the frontage of their property. This actually is a fee simple strip that's owned by the MTA. It's not public right of way. It's actually belongs to the MTA. We're asking that they take basically this connection and crosswalk off of the plan and not construct it at this time. There is a MOU for the design of the shared use path and frontage improvements from this site to points. Which direction are we going? East, northeast. Toward meeting, where the new Royal Farms was constructed. The shared use path was constructed to across that frontage, and then it's going to pick up. We have the Bluegrass self-storage project that was reviewed on this corner. We have an MOU with that developer, who is also the developer of this property, to design the frontage improvements, and we want this section, because it has the rail crossing and the alignment across the street, we want that to be designed comprehensively as part of that MOU, and then it would be constructed as part of a CIP. And part of the reasoning for that is that this pedestrian crossing of the rail tracks is going to have to be, carefully designed. So one of the conditions is basically that they're going to revise the plan to stop the shared use portion that they have to construct at this point here, and then leave this to be designed with the rest of the more comprehensive design plans. Hopefully that makes sense.
So Gabrielle, on your action 2 final site plan, the first condition, is that something new? And is the applicant okay with that, to revise the plan to extend the public road and sidewalk on both sides?
Sure. So what that is talking about, and I'm sorry, I had to stop sharing just so I could see my condition. I usually have my iPad and I'm looking at that too. Let me bring you back to what that is. Coming back up. So what that condition is basically, here's our new road coming into east south. This again is not public right of way. It belongs to the MTA. What we're asking them to do is to continue to show the sidewalks on both sides and the street section. So it's not going to be kind of narrowed down into this existing drive, or well, they're showing proposed improvements there, but that standard be shown to complete all the way across the MTA's property. So it would be a seamless road section. You're not going to have sidewalks that are ending at the property line and for a short distance between the road and this property line. You're going to see a seamless road section is the goal. So we want to see that shown, and then they have to gain approval from the MTA for that as well.
Okay, so what's the difference between this and the last one? The last one, you didn't want them to show something on the MTA property because it wasn't their property and they weren't going to do it. But this one, it is still that same MTA property and they're supposed to do it.
They're supposed to do, correct.
That's the new road versus the shared use path.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And they knew all along that they were required to do that on both sides, right?
Correct. I think why they stopped it here is that they're unsure exactly of what the MTA is going to want to see there. So we're saying that start with this. This is the road section you're designing. This is going to be a public street from East South Street to Monocacy Boulevard. So we want it to be a continuous section. And then that has to be approved by MTA. And like I said, if anything changes, they will be revising this plan.
Okay. Commissioner Manalis, Beatty, any questions, comments? Nope. Okay. All right, and then there's the combined forest stand delineation. Nothing new on that.
Nope. We talked a little bit about the modification at the workshop for the removal of that specimen tree, and then they are proposing a combination of the fee in lieu of and street tree credits. Oh, I'm sorry, and they also, this one, they did put in a small forest conservation area between East South Street and the new development, so that'll serve as a buffer.
Any questions? Okay. Alrighty then. Moving right along. Now we have Madison on North Market. We have two, and these. So the next three things. There's actually. I know we're going to take items A and J are listed as separate, but they're on the staff report as together. And since it's the first of two public hearings, are we going to actually have the staff report at the same time and go through the process at the same time, or do it separately?
I'm a little confused with what you just said, that you're going to listen to the zoning and the master plan at the same time. It's in the same staff report.
Well, that's, so I see it is. So it is in the same staff report. However, it's on the agenda as separate items. So I'm just confirming that we're not going to take them as separate items.
No, you will listen to this and you will not be voting the first hearing or
Of course.
anything. Right.
Of course.
And your recommendations will go forward to the mayor and board on those different items. So.
Okay, that's what I did assume, that we were taking them together, but I just wanted to confirm because that was because they were listed separately. So Pam, the floor is yours then to talk about them. Any updates? Anything you want to share on this?
Well, we did include in the staff report some more explanation for you for the differences between the rezonings. And as the staff report is lays out, there's different criteria for you to consider for the rezoning. request and also for the master plan criteria that the Planning Commission should consider. Most of that is answered by, most of these criteria are answered by the APFO testing and knowing that you have facilities available for this development, and comprehensively we've listed many things in supportive of this project. The applicant we've listed with what the applicant feels are conditions they're offering for the rezoning to be approved as conditions of approval. We also have gone down and explained intensively, about each of the land bays. As you know, they're asking for land bay 1. They've requested that floor area ratio. We went into a little bit more detail for you there. Hoping that that's enough explanation if you have any more questions on that. And then also they're asking for that setback distance, for the non-residential building, and recognizing that, to bring it to the streetscape and everything because the odd shape of this property. And then they've gone through and answered the performance standards as much as they can at this time, because, many of these performance standards that we've said in the report go forward with the preliminary and site plans. And they've given you a look at the design booklet of what they're envisioned of design for the buildings. And parking. They are giving you the minimum, they are meeting the minimum parking requirements as laid out on their preliminary site plan. As engineering has reviewed and everything for the detail in front of North Market Street, we have much discussion on the protected bike path. And the staff is asking the applicant to extend that bike path down to along the frontage all the way down to meet Schifferstadt. And they did go back and included their small loading space, so they did not need a modification for that. As they now have, as the APFO testing, at the time of workshop, they did not have their testing completed with the schools, and now the schools has come back and they do have their testing completed. They failed the high school level, so the applicant will need to mitigate, for the schools to move forward, and they'll decide on that, and they would have to do that before they would move forward with the site plan to let us know what they're going to do with this. But anyway, and more than likely, they're going to go ahead and pay the fee, but they are also looking at the low income housing where the mitigation fee could be 0. And they, as I've listed below for you, is that we're asking them before they resubmit for the next hearing to clean up a couple things on the master plan and just one thing on the preliminary site plan, just to give you a cleaner plan, and hopefully we won't have many conditions of approval that would even go forward for the plan itself if everyone is in agreement with the plan going forward. So that's what we have for you.
Can you address this parkland requirement?
Oh, yes, they went to the Parks and Rec. I'm sorry, I skipped over that. They went to the Parks and Rec, and they did ask for a waiver. And the Parks and Rec did not support that, as it says, as I said in the staff report. So their other option and what they've are thinking about going forward with is the fact that they do have a small area for parks on the site that they can use as a private park, and then they want to go ahead and pay the rest of it in fee in lieu of, which is allowed in their ordinance. So that's what they're looking at now.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments on this? Manalis, Commissioner Manalis.
Yeah, I was just curious, Pam, on page 10, land bay 1, in the past, and I don't remember, have we in the past approved to reduce, like a modification to reduce the minimum far under what the standard is, which is at least 0.25 but not to exceed 4.0. I mean, it'd be great if we can have some kind of example in which we may have done this before. I have to be honest, I read that section and I understand what is being said, but I don't know what the implications would be if we approved it to 0.113. I do understand that they would have to have that they would be putting a second, where was that? A second floor to achieve the required FAR, and that would include having to have, I guess, parking for that additional floor. So I just wanted to get some more information on that. That would be helpful.
And that's on page 10?
Page
Sorry.
10, Land Bay 1. I just,
Okay.
like we did the
Got it.
last time with the infill, I think off of West Patrick Street, where there was, and examples provided to us in which, certain things were done, modifications were approved, that there were no safety concerns, that everything, was up to par. I just want to know, in regards to that type of scenario here, has that been done in the past by the Planning Commission, or has the city approved something like that before?
Yeah, you're looking at if we have ever reduced the FAR before on a project. And Gabrielle would be more aware of all the projects that's gone through the system, but I can't recall. We've reduced a lot of the impervious surface ratios for projects. I can't remember one that stood out for me for the FAR, but I will look into it and see. And then if I can tell you and give you any opinion on implications that would affect it, I will I'll work with Gabrielle and try to get back and get you something for that.
I would appreciate it. Thank you, Pam. That's my only question.
Okay. So I assume nothing else then, and we're good with that one. So that takes us to our last item, and this is with Sherry, and this is also a master plan, the first of two public hearings. Dearbot Senior Living.
Yes. Hello. Like you said, this is just the first of the two required public hearings, so no recommendation has been made at this time. Just to update you, let's see. For the APFOs, I think you knew this before the work or at the workshop last month, but the final certificate for water line capacity was issued, and a provisional certificate was issued for the sewer line capacity. And in order for them to receive a final cert, the applicant must receive approval from the county's Division of Water and Sewer Utilities, which is DUSWM. So we will get that taken care of, and then they can move forward. But that will probably, if we don't have that from them by that time, then we'll make it a condition of approval. So, and then the exemption for road capacity testing, that was issued August 9th, and it's the exemption was issued because they will generate no more than 50 new weekday peak trip hours. So, and then also the stormwater on the conceptual plan has been approved, and the applicant has submitted the stormwater report as well as an application for a quantitative and qualitative waiver for stormwater. So that's all I have as far as updates. If you have any questions.
And I don't remember that there were any questions from the commission at the workshop or any items that we needed more information on. And I didn't see that there was anything in the write-up that referred to, quote, at the last workshop. So is that correct, to your knowledge? Commissioner Manalis and Beatty, any questions?
Yes. And I just can't remember. I haven't looked at this yet, but I can't remember. Also, I noticed that there were comments made by the NAC. Has that been addressed in writing by the applicant yet? Or I guess we'll wait to hear about that. Maybe we discussed this already and I can't remember, but it's been a while. But is there any response to concern? It talks here about people being concerned with, I guess, the scale of the project, but also the traffic, along Wayfield Drive. And so I was just curious about that. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Oops, sorry about that.
Yes, I missed everything you said.
So the applicant did state that they are going to continue to work with their traffic consultant as well as our engineering staff to look at traffic calming and safety improvements for Wayfield Drive. And that will be from Sebastian Boulevard along the project frontage. So I know they've been back and forth, discussing things, he and the applicant and Sherry. So,
Okay.
yeah, so we'll see if there's anything. I mean, you could certainly ask them for a follow-up at the meeting to see. I'll go back and look. Like I said, I don't think the applicant and Sherry have had a chance to they were looking to do a meeting and haven't actually gotten that scheduled yet, so.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I do see one public comment, I guess, attached to this. So I guess I'll take a look at that. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. I think that's it before we adjourn the meeting. Anything further from either Commissioner Beatty or Commissioner Manalis? Yeah, Commissioner Manalis.
Just a reminder that at Monday night.
9:30.
Yes. Thank you.
I guess you may not have been on. Gabrielle and I were talking to say, yes, in fact, I think we'll all have a hard stop at 9:30. Now, if we, I don't see any reason, unless something comes up that we don't currently see, that we can't make that happen. And we'll keep in mind the breaks as we always do, et cetera.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
All right. So everybody have a great weekend, and the meeting is adjourned. We'll see you Monday.
You
Happy
too. Take
Friday.
care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.